So now we understand the current portions with the Tenkan and the Kijun. Now let's move to the cloud. This is the future part of the Ichimoku clouds. The cloud portion is also going to be made up of two lines, and they are called Senku A and Senku B. Sometimes you might see them called span A and B, but Senku is the technical Japanese word there. Both lines, both your Senku A and B, are plotted 26 days ahead into the future. Now, where do these numbers come from? Are they really that important? The answer is yeah. They're from the Japanese calendar of how they trade. A lot of people think, well, they should adjust them and put them on the Western calendar. It doesn't really work that well. People have tried that. Just stick with the original numbers. But these numbers, there was a lot of intelligence that went into them, and I suggest that you just stick with them. But it had to do with the number of Japanese trading days in the month, and that's how it all got shifted forward and shifted back and whatnot. So whenever it's 26 days in the future, you're just going to plug that into your clouds, and you're going to go with it as 26 days in the future, because that's the best way to do it. So let's look at the Senku A. The Senku A is the first line of the clouds. So if you look at your clouds on the chart, you're going to see there's two lines, the top and the bottom. It's the first one that gets drawn is the Senku A. And it is, you ready for this? It is the average of the Tenkan and the Kijun lines. So you got the Tenkan line, you got the Kijun line, which we just drew as the current line. Now if we took those and we averaged them, now we're getting the Senku A line. But here's the distinction. We're going to average the Tenkan and Kijun, and then we're going to shift it forward 26 days. So here's the formula. Tenkan plus Kijun divided by 2, shifted forward 26 days, and that's where the line comes from. So if you put it on a chart, it ends up looking like this picture over here. You say, well, where'd that line come from? Well, now you know. It took the Tenkan line, it took the Kijun line, and it averaged them, and then it shifted it forward. See, it gets a little complicated here. Here's what it looks like. Take a note here. Here's your Tenkan and your Kijun. There's your two lines. We're going to plot the average. There's your average, and now we're going to shift it forward, and that's where your line shows up. And boom, that's how these lines get created. So whenever you see the first point of your Kijun line, of your Senku line, it is the average of the Tenkan and the Kijun shifted forward 26 days, and that's how it is created. Now the second line of the cloud is what we call the Senku B line. So let me show you how this one is created. The Senku B line is the second line of the cloud, and here's the distinction. It is not an average of Tenkan and Kijun, but rather it's calculated like those two. So we take the midpoint average, so we're going to take the midpoint, and this particular setting uses a 52 period setting, and then we're going to plot it forward 26 sessions into the future. So here's the formula for Senku B. 52-day high plus 52-day low divided by 2, shifted forward 26 days. Whew, that's exhausting to think about, right? So where these numbers came from, again, it almost doesn't matter, but a lot of research went into calculating them and figuring them out. And I'm just teaching you where the numbers come from so that we can apply them. Then we're going to really focus on the signals. That's the most important part. But here's what it is. 52-day high and low divided by 2, shifted forward. So take that formula that we used for the Tenkan and the Kijun, take that formula and apply it with a 52-day setting. And here's what it looks like here. If you just took the 52-day extreme high and the 52-day extreme low, you get your averages. You update that every day, take the mid price point, and now we're going to shift it forward 26 days into the future. And that's where the bottom of the cloud, or the Senku B, comes from. And that's what it ends up looking like. So if you take a look at this kind of light green line, you're going to notice that the light green line is the exact same line that I've just now shifted forward. So it's going to draw it into the future. All right, now together, here's the interesting thing. Together, these two lines, the Senku A and B, they create the cloud. They create that cloud span there. And this is the future portion of the Ichimoku clouds. There's all sorts of interesting things that we can take from that future portion there. Forms a key part of the system, and there are several pieces of information we get from it. For example, support and resistance. We get support and resistance in the future from these clouds that are being drawn. We get bullish and bearish signals, and we also get signals from cloud thickness. So we're going to take all of these signals and we'll unpack them as we move forward. But now you understand how Senku A and Senku B are constructed. So here, take a look at both of these lines on the chart together. So you look at this and you kind of look at it and you think, oh, there's just a couple lines out here in the middle of the future, doing nothing. Well, no, there's some intelligence that's applied here. The green line is the 52-day high and low divided by 2, midpoint average, shifted forward 26 days. The blue line is the Tenkan and the Kijun, divided by 2, shifted forward 26 days. Now together they create the cloud, and what happens is most of the time we actually display these as a shade. So there just looks like lines here, but when we put it in our charting software, normally we shade it in just like that. And often it's red and blue, where the blue represents that the Senku A is on top, and the red represents that Senku A is on the bottom below the B line. All right, now these signals, we'll start to unpack those later, but I just want you to understand how they're constructed at this point.